Okay, Group 9, Race 1, the first of 2 races for them. The safety car will peel off in a moment, and we will be led by Bakir Bakovic in the Formula 1 spec. Benetton Formula 1 B198. Greg Field, a good friend of mine, probably prepared that car back in 1998. And now it still races here at the Circuit of the Americas as away we go with a huge field heading up the hill here. Indy cars, Formula Mazda, Formula 1, and away they go. And it's the Benetton Formula 1 that leads them into that first quarter.
Lewis Cooper Jr. in that Panos really wanted to take a look, but the Benetton had the line, and nobody ever wins the race on the first turn.
Yes, you can get overexcited and make a mistake at turn 1 and easily miss your braking point as through goes John Taphorn in the Reynard Formula Continental.
Now see, that doesn't look physically possible to be able to grip like that. That's what the downforce is doing for these cars.
You see, notice how they don't slide compared to the previous cars we saw on track. They are literally glued to the ground, as you say, upside down aeroplanes in many ways. That's how it works. But a good battle already forming here for first and second. We're down to turn 11. A great overtaking spot, and that's exactly what the white and red car, not quite sure of the number, just went through. I think that was Ben Sinnott taking a place there from 5th and up to 4th. Everybody sliding through 11, and now the power as you put your foot down to the floor to get full power. Down towards turn 12. Another good overtaking opportunity here.
Yeah, that's Hans Peter right there leading that group through. Ben Sinnott in that cool Indy car. Ben is one of our fastest drivers. He's very patient, so look for him to kind of work his way through there.
Yep, through 14 now and into a very tight 15. There is a place to make a sort of block pass there.
There goes Charlie Peter on the inside.
Well, Sinnott's had a really interesting opening lap for sure. And into 18 and now into 19. And 19, a critical corner here at Circuit of the Americas. It's deceptive. It's very much off camber. And you can easily get it wrong, especially in a Formula Spec car like these.
We have a change for the lead.
Hans Peter.
Hans Peter in the 2006 Swift has taken the lead over Bakir right there in that Benetton coming up right now. Look at that.
There he is. There's your leader. In the number 66.
Followed by Lewis Cooper Jr.
So, leading the race now is the Swift, the 2006 Formula 3 car, followed by a Formula 1 car. That doesn't often happen, but it's happening right here in SVRA. Ben Sissel and Jonathan Green bringing you the action. I hope you're tuning in on the app and enjoying it on the internet wherever you're tuning in. We welcome you to the Circuit of the Americas. Bright sunshine here in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, and if you're watching on our social media channels, please leave a comment where you're watching from, who you're rooting for, what cars you want to watch, and leave a comment if you want us to talk about anything or if you have any questions, and we'll try to answer your questions as best we can. We are live here at Circuit of the Americas, but it's all about you, the fan. So tell us what you want to see or what you want to see more of. If you want me to be quiet, I'll gladly do that.
And we've got the Panos of the DP01 Panos, a 2007 version with Lewis Cooper Jr. now moving up to third place.
Pass for the lead.
Wow, he's using that all the power of the Benetton.
I think he was in a DRS zone, right?
They didn't have DRS. They didn't have Mickey Mouse stuff back in those days.
We don't have DRS zones yet.
Oh, somebody's slowing here. That's not good. Yeah, well, he's not going to be playing any longer, I don't think.
So in that bright-nosed car, that's Travis Ingen. We talked about him before in that Chevron.
He's a busy boy.
He is. He's going to be busy all day. He's racing in 4 different classes.
Well, I don't know if he's missed a gear or something, but we're looking at the 73.
James Johnston right there in that red car, followed by Amir Ali.
Now, how many of these drivers would you say own their own cars, or are they all drivers brought in to drive an owner's car?
I'd say it's probably about 60 to 70%. A lot of these cars, like I was talking about, Cahill, are rental cars. And then there's even some timeshare cars where somebody's like, I'll buy a third of the car and I'll do a third of the events on it.
Yeah.
So it's just what everybody wants to do. But the beauty of
I mentioned he'd slow down, but the player is no longer that.
Justin Frick.
You know, I've got a feeling that could be a Paul Tracy car. Justin Frick Was 5th overall, but sadly he's parked it, and that's a real shame.
Yeah. And if you're wondering about these cars, you can buy these cars. Sometimes the teams will sell them because they're moved on to the next car. But the cool thing about historic racing is a lot of these cars go up in value. So it's like investing in the stock market with an almost guarantee it'll go up in value. But, you know, I don't get to race my stocks, but you can race a car that will go up in value. How
There is
cool
that. It's a good point. Yeah, you can't race your house, but you can race one of these. Kevin Burry just getting up a place there at the top of the hill to move further up the board. And as we look further down, you can see on the bottom left, on the bottom of the screen, you can see the ticker tape of the field as it drifts through the S's here at COTA.
You know, I need to brag about our driver, Travis Engen, and that number 21A. This car right here going right with the bright nose. He is in such good shape, and the reason is he loves racing. He swims every single day. I had lunch with him today. You can tell that he's in fantastic shape. But when you see the cars that he drives, high downforce, high G-force cars, he needs to stay in that shape so that he can keep racing. So he's basically swimming every day to keep his habit of racing going.
That's great.
Good race here forming up. And this is what's cool about vintage racing. If this is your first time joining us, even in these mixed groups, they're still doing similar lap times with some good racing in these mixed groups. Here's Travis Engen right here on the inside in that blue and day glow car in the 21A.
Yeah, it looks like a mini Ferrari Formula One car, doesn't it?
Really cool.
Oh, the one behind I'm looking at now.
Yeah.
This one we're talking about now. I'll tell you what, I'm looking at the actual, overall times. 2:03, that's not slow round here. I'm thinking about some of the sports car racing I've seen around here, and certainly MotoGP. They're not far off at all, so they're putting pedal to the metal. No doubt about it down here.
I tell you what, that's the first thing a lot of these drivers will do. If you're racing an Indy Lights car, you're going to compare yourself to what Indy cars raced here. If you're racing a sports car, you're going to see what the modern sports cars are racing here. And the one year in Formula One that it rained, everybody compared themselves to that lap time.
Yes, exactly. Here's one of the Rolts of 2. We've got the number 43, that of Edward Copley in the 1980 Rolt RT4. Meanwhile, James Johnson Jr., we saw him earlier, the Pro Formula Master car.
And we remember him with Radman at Mid-Ohio, that great race up front between those two cars. And James Johnson Jr. really always puts on a great show with us here, and he's not disappointing us again here at Circuit of the Americas.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of SVRA and vintage racing, is that you not only get to race the cars, you get to go to some of these iconic tracks. I mean, to be able to come here, if you wanted to rent this track for the day and just hurtle around, it's not cheap. So to get a chance to come out and be part of an event like this is really special.
Somebody explained it to me. So there's a guy here racing with us called Doc Bundy, and he gets to race Mario Andretti's Formula One car. So he said, in what other place could I go, like he likens it to going and putting on Mickey Mantle's glove and uniform, playing baseball in Yankee Stadium. He's like, I get to suit up in Mario Andretti's car and race at a Formula One circuit. There's nothing else like that.
Well, to give you a little bit of an aside, but it is a great piece of history, the first ever car on this circuit was Doc Bundy's 1978 Mario Andretti car, and guess who drove it? Mario Andretti. It was a wonderful day.
Doesn't get any better than that.
And we had 2 Formula One Lotus cars as well, with modern drivers who backed him up, but Mario got the privilege as the ambassador to the Circuit of the Americas to drive his car. I said, what was it like to be reunited? He said it was like going on a date with an old girlfriend.
That's awesome. Mario Andretti, how cool is that?
And he is. Mario, he does the 2-seater Honda. I'm not sure it's going to be Honda from now on, but he still does those Indy special rides in front of the IndyCar races, does Mario. And long may it continue.
We just saw Doris Seibert right there in that number 42 as we follow along with the number 5 of Rob Radman. We were talking about him, a great race at Mid-Ohio, and here he is, not disappointing us again.
They definitely tried to make it look like a Formula One car with the shell coverage and the bright red. Really great to see some crowds finally back at a sporting event. It's been very tough this year, and we take our hats off to certainly Tony Perella and to John Claggett, the two organisers of both Trans Am.
So here's my favorite right here.
Here it is.
Jerome Me, which is kind of funny because it's like Jeremy, but he's in that Ray-Ban Ferrari Shell Formula 2 car, and that thing, you've got it. The great thing about our events is open paddocks. Find him in the paddock. He's behind basically the last garage by the grid, and he'll start the car for you, and it'll take your hair off.
It will take your hair off. Now, that's probably one of the most modern cars out here. That's 2015. That's a really nice car.
It is. It's 2015 Dallara F2. Let's see what his times are.
I've just seen the 43 coming into pits. That's Edward Copley in the Rolt that we saw earlier. That's a shame to see him not able to continue to participate. But just to give you a little countdown, because we're getting near the checkered flag now, as it's still Bakir Berkovic, who lost the lead for a while. This is the final lap. Hans Peter still second place, and Charlie Peter in third place. But it's been a fantastic display here as we head on our final lap here at the Circuit of the Americas for our first run of Group 9. And don't worry, if you missed some of the action while you were getting the beer, we'll be back in action again tomorrow, these boys. And we've got qualifying for Trans Am. You don't want to miss that. That's going to be exciting. The championship is wide open in all 4 categories of Trans Am. That coming up very soon. And like I said, the SVRAs get 2 races each weekend. So we'll see these boys in action, as well as Mazda wheel-to-wheel action later in the day.
Look at that. I'm waiting for that rear flap to open, aren't you?
No DRS here down the back straight.
And he did a 2 flat. That's a really good time.
That's a really good time, yeah. Very impressive.
And what I mean by that is he did 2 minutes flat. So he got a 2-minute, .327 seconds in that beautiful FedEx Benetton in the livery that it raced in Formula 1 in 1998.
Yeah, fantastic. I want to say Gerhard Berger. That would probably be the car that he retired in. The Austrian, who now still has a very prominent role in both DTM and Formula 3. But I do remember Gerhard Berger racing to victory at Hockenheim in this particular car back in the late 90s. So, yeah, a lot of history and just spectacular to see. And you can literally roll back the years watching these cars and remember those days from previous Formula 1 eras. So then, as he comes to the line, out of turn 20 to take the checkered flag, Formula 1 wins at a Formula 1 circuit as the checkered flag comes out, and it's an excellent win for Bakir Berkovic as he takes victory in the Benetton Formula 1 B198 from 1998. Flavio Briatore, I hope, gets the news. He was the team manager at the time.
That is cool. Jerome Me crossing the finish line.
Yep, 5th place for Jerome, and Lee Brahin just behind him in 6th place. Ben Sinnott, who we saw in action in the number 26, finished in 7th, just ahead of Stuart Crowe in 8th, Bruce Hamilton, who you mentioned, in 9th, and Glenn Belowski in 10th position. So, plenty of great stuff from Group 9. We've got Group 10 coming up next. Which is your favourite group?
My favourite group is 1 and 3, which is the small bore production. The crowd's favorite group is Group 6 and 10. So 10 is going to be up
next.
That's fun racing. So stay tuned, because that's basically ex-Trans Am, ex-NASCAR.
Oh, yes.
So it's
some Rusty Wallace cars.
Yeah, so we've got some cars with a little bit of downforce, some race-prepared cars, purpose-built race cars that still kind of resemble production cars.
Yep. And
there's
finishing
Doris.
off his race,
Doris Siebert,
number 42.
So there's fans in the bleachers right there. And even though they're blocking our view, that's a great sight to have fans back at racing. I love the fans here coming to the Austin Speed Tour. Tickets are still available, and we have family packs. Children 12 and under are free. Go to speedtour.net to get tickets, or you can meet us at the gate.
So that concludes our coverage of Group 9. Group 10 coming up, and as Ben Sissel said this is going to be some fun racing. You don't want to miss it. We've got racing all through the day here, including Trans Am qualifying coming up later in the day. They race tomorrow. We've got a full packed house of racing tomorrow as well, starting early morning. We've already had some highlights already. Matt Brabham winning already, and now a Formula One car wins at the Formula One track. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back from the Circuit of the Americas in a moment.